So I am here with John from Little John's Carquest in Live Oak, Florida, and we got an interesting little episode for you. We are showcasing John's S-10, and we're going to give you a little information about it, what makes it unique, and then this is going to lead into something special that we're going to do here on Mike's Motorworks. John, tell us a little about the truck. When did you first acquire it? What did it first have? And what prompted you to make some changes?
Well, I bought it in 2003. It's a 2003. It originally came with the 2.2 liter 5-speed. It's got 247,000 miles on the original motor, but it was a 4-cylinder 5-speed, so it was really underpowered. I couldn't really tow anything with it. It's just really overwhelming, just the things you couldn't do with this truck. I couldn't pull a trailer, so it was time to give it a little bit of an upgrade.
All right. Now, this truck came with, you said, the suspension very similar to the Extreme trucks of the same year?
Yes, this actually has the ZQ8 package, which is the Extreme Sport suspension. Factory lowered 1.5 inches in the front, inch in the rear, so it's true level. I did upgrade the rear springs, the rear shocks, with the coilover springs in the back to handle a little bit more of a load when I decided to tow with it. So that kind of lifted the back end a little bit, made it a little bit stiffer.
Right. Now, when you're saying you couldn't tow, you could do like small loads, but it would really burn out the clutch and your fuel would suffer. And
yeah, it would pull a small jet ski without a problem, but pulling anything else, a small 8x8 trailer was okay, but anything bigger than that, it was just too much of a load on this little truck.
All right. So what changes did you decide to make to the truck, power-wise, to allow it to do what you were wanting to do and have a little bit more fun with it?
Well, I decided to go with the LS, and this is out of a LM7, which is out of a 2001 Silverado. This is a cable drive, not fly-by-wire, which we'll explain more of that later. But it's the most reliable LS motor ever made, in my opinion. And the reason why is it's one of the most popular trucks that GM came out with was a Silverado with a 5.3. It is 330 horsepower from factory. We did some upgrades to this motor, which we'll get into. But this is really the most reliable, strongest LS motor that GM came out with that was cable drive.
All right. So this is a standard wheelbase, non-extended cab. You went from the 4-cylinder, not to the 6-cylinder, but you went to a 5.3 8-cylinder in this thing.
Yes.
Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Yeah, it's a big change. And now that I've kind of done this swap, I just it becomes more of a toy now. If I want to pull something, I know I can. If I want to pull a big trailer, I know I can. If I want to load up, tools from my shop and bring them home, I know I can load up a trailer and bring tools home. I can pretty much tow what I want with it, considering the suspension that's on there.
Mm-hmm. Now, you told me before that this is technically classified as an LSX. What makes it an LSX compared to other LSs?
Well, the LSX, there's two versions, two classifications of LSX. The X stands for customization. The original LSX, which is a capital X, is the big block LS7, which has been modified for extremely high horsepower, some rating at over 2,000 horsepower. The lowercase x is meaning any LS generation GM V8. This particular LSX, lowercase, has the Ls3 Cam, which is the Ls3 Cam out of the 6-liter Corvette. Also used in the Cadillac CTS-V. So it's a bigger cam lobe than what came factory with this particular engine. And also, because we went with the Ls3 camshaft, we did upgrade the valve springs to the LS6, which is a stiffer spring which allows for a higher lobe with the push rods to give the optimum performance for this application.
So basically, you're talking about the LS motor with a couple mild upgrades on the cam and the springs.
Yes.
But those are the only additional modifications. You didn't bore it, you didn't stroke it, you didn't do anything
No,
else.
the bottom end is actually stock, and the LS is a 6-bolt main, which means there's 4 bolts on the very bottom and 2 that runs to the side.
Oh.
So that right there, it being a 6-bolt, you got 6 bolts holding that crank in place. So those 6 bolts can actually be able to handle a whole lot of bottom end power. If I wanted to, it'd be easy to upgrade to a big blower or even a twin turbo setup, because the bottom end can handle 800 horsepower stock. So that's the big thing with this.
All righty.
The other modification I did, which I did a home port and polish. I did do a mild port, which is a gasket match of the intake on the heads, which I took a Dremel tool and ground out the openings for the head.
Right. And the heads are aluminum, so it's a little bit easier to do that than the
Yes,
steel ones.
and that does require a special tool to hone them out. So I did port that. I did not polish the intake, because you don't want to polish the intake. You want that kind of vortex in there to help atomize fuel better. I did port and polish the exhaust.
Wow, wow, wowie. So the original 4-cylinder, you estimate roughly about how many horsepower to the wheels?
To the rear wheels, with the modifications that I did with it from factory, which I did the cold air intake and upgraded the exhaust and a computer chip, we actually dynoed it at 144 horsepower.
So 144 out of a 4-cylinder, right? Now you got a little bit more weight on this with the 8-cylinder. Approximately, what are you estimating to the wheels?
Right now, I'm estimating with the cam and all the upgrades that we have done, right at about 380.
Holy moly, holy moly. This thing must absolutely scream. What about other upgrades that were needed to get the truck to handle the 8-cylinder and that additional horsepower? Did you have to change the transmission out? Did you have to change the rear end out? What all did you change to help the truck handle that newer horsepower?
Well, the stock 2.2 liter manual transmission will not bolt up to the V8. The transmission is still a 5-speed. We upgraded the transmission out of a 1996 full-size Silverado with a 4.3, which gave the actual shifter outlet in the exact same location as a stock V6 or 4-cylinder, so I didn't have to relocate my shifter. So that does have a little bit of an upgrade. The gearing ratio is just about the same as far as the overdrives and first gear wind up. They're all about the same with this NV 45 transmission in this.
NV 45, and it really originally had a Tremec?
No, it originally had the NV 3500.
Okay.
Which is designed specifically for the 4-cylinder. The NV 4500 was used in the 4.3 liter V6, as well as the V8 4.8 liter Silverado.
Wow, wow. Now, it's important to note that John's a complete GM guy. He loves the bow tie, loves GM, Cadillac, and what have you, where I'm more of an old school Mopar, modern Ford, and modern Toyota guy. So sometimes I'll get my terminology mixed up, and John's really the expert when it comes to the Chevy products themselves. Man, so what other modifications were required to really make this thing work together?
Well, there's quite a few modifications. One, you can't use the factory air housing, and the reason why is on GM's the 4-cylinder and V6 S-10s, they route out to the left. The air inlet is on the left side, the driver's side of the vehicle. On the Silverados, they are routed on the passenger side, the right side of the vehicle. So we kind of had to modify the air intake to allow that, and what I did, running a parts store, I used a 4-inch diesel exhaust and modified that with a couple of elbows, welded that in place to allow that bigger airflow so I have the performance needed. But also I did that so I can route it any way I wanted to. So if I wanted to keep it off of the right side, I can. If I wanted to go to the left side, I can. So I chose that, and I chose the exhaust style, one, because that metal with a wrap or a header wrap it won't take away from the cold air side of the intake system. The other big thing is you can't run a flex fan. One, you don't have enough room, so you got to run an electric fan of some kind. I made my own shroud. I run a dual radiator fan. One's higher up and one's on the lower side. And I did that because of the size. I need as much cooling power as I possibly can. The radiator for a 4-cylinder will not cool efficiently enough for the V8.
Right.
So I upgraded to the 4.3 liter radiator. The other thing is the battery had to be relocated to the back because I put the air intake on the passenger side, which on the S-10s, the Blazers, they all run off of the passenger side. So I relocated that to the bed. The other big thing is the wiring harness. The wiring harness to convert from the 5.3 to allow to work with my factory BCM and my factory controls had to be rewired completely for this application. And that harness actually came out of a 2004 Tahoe, which is the same engine, but the harness had to be stripped completely down, rewired. I got rid of the fly-by-wire cables to allow for the cable drive. So a lot of wiring harness had to be removed and installed, added to make this application work.
Good deal. Now, two last things. One, when you fire this thing up, and we're going to hear what that sounds like in a few minutes, this thing sounds absolutely mean. What kind of exhaust system did you use to give it that unique sound?
Well, we used a 2.5-inch exhaust. It's a dual in, dual out Flowmaster 60 series, but it is a true dual. It does have custom headers made specifically for the S-10 swap. I did have to modify the driver's side header because of the steering linkage, which I had to bring a guy in who could TIG stainless because the headers are stainless. So we brought that header in a little bit closer to allow room for the stock steering shaft. But it does have a true dual in, dual out Flowmaster 60 series, 2.5-inch with stainless tips.
Good deal. And one last question. I understand that you're wanting to do this same swap on a different vehicle. So what's your intent?
Yes, I bought a 2004 Chevrolet Blazer. This is a two-door Blazer, two-wheel drive. The V6, great power, very reliable. The horsepower rating on those is just under 200 horsepower on my particular S-10 Blazer. But that's still the fuel economy at 15 miles to the gallon. With my current S-10, my truck, I get, if I stay out of the throttle, about 22 miles to the gallon. Where if I put that same V8 with some minor modifications, since I done one already, I can do some changes to give a little bit better and cleaner look. But really, for the fuel economy and reliability, the V6s are very reliable. The 4.3, great motors, but they do have known issues with the fuel injection system. It's a spider assembly. They are known for having issues and very expensive. The other big issue with the 4.3 is coolant. The intake leaks are very common. So I want that reliability of the GM 5.3 LS.
So basically, by doing this upgrade, you're going to get better economy because of power to weight ratio.
Yes.
You're going to get increased reliability. You're not going to have those problems that you get with the current OEM. And quite frankly, it's just going to be a funner to drive vehicle.
Absolutely. And if I decide to take a trip, you know, I have plenty of room because it's a bigger SUV compared to my standard cab truck. So yeah, there's a lot of pluses going in this route. One, reliability, and it's just going to be funner and better in fuel economy.
Good deal. Well, we're going to get some shots here and let you guys take a look to see what everything looks like, and we'll insert those in the narrative. And thanks to Little John for coming out and coming over and saying, yeah, we want to get this on video. We want to help Mike's Motorworx out, and you know, we're partnering together on a lot of things. You saw me in the shop earlier on another episode, and we're working plenty together to get some of the stuff done for Mike's Motorworx.
And I do want to say one thing. Thanks for Mike for coming out and shooting this video so we can show you guys what we're doing. The wiring harness that you're fixing to see in here is just a temporary because it was my first go around. So you see wiring harness kind of opened up here and there. The ECM is not in its correct location because, like I said, it was my first go around, and now that I have figured out better ways to do it, so there's going to be some modifications later on down the road. So just ignore the wiring harness for the moment, and we'll show you the right way to do that.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in, and don't hesitate to check us out on the next episode.